Here today with Chris Peace, Tristan Rushworth, and Rich Evans, three exited founders of B2B businesses. Got lots that they're doing together now, which we're going to dive into, and plenty going on individually as well. So we're going to crack on, see what they get up to, and some of the tips and advice that they can share today. So, guys, what we've been doing this week? What are the main events that have been going on?
It's been good. I've been busy, right?
Yeah, been fun. A lot of travelling.
Well,
More for
you,
some than
anyway.
others.
Yeah, exactly.
Tristan, where have you come from for this week?
So I've come from not Batley, Barley.
Someone did say Batley this week, didn't they? It's like, I live in Batley. Wow.
So yeah, been out in Bali for a year, but joys of the digital age we're in mean so that we can work with clients from anywhere in the world and fly back over and do meetings like we've had this week. So we've run a couple of events this week, haven't we, fellas? One on sharing some stories, tips, steps on the journey to building an exitable business. And then yesterday we got the Impact Board members together for the group that we work with together.
We'll delve into plenty more, I'm sure. Well, it's good to have you back in God's country in Yorkshire. Chris, you obviously the accent might give it away. Come down from Scotland. Again, have you found the week? And what's been some of the highlights just off the top of your head?
Yeah, came down from Edinburgh on Tuesday, and so we had our event in Manchester, which was class. There was like 20 odd people who are looking to sort of build a business that they might want to one day exit in some shape or form. And then yesterday we were at the Dakota in Leeds with the early adopters of the new product that we've just launched, which is the Impact Board, and that was really good. So much more impactful and a full day really paying attention and getting under the skin of the businesses, which I think went great, didn't it, lads?
Yeah, I agree.
Cool, Rich. Obviously, the Impact Board, something slightly different to Unbound and something that maybe people don't know quite as much about. It's not been going as long. Do you want to give us a tiny bit of insight into that?
Yeah, so obviously we do the free events. So I think from a free community standpoint, it's got 200 plus people involved nowadays, and obviously not all 200 turn up to everything at once, thankfully, because it costs a few quid. But yeah, the free stuff's great to add value and make sure people have got as much support as possible from a free perspective that they can get their hands on, essentially. But from the Impact Board that we've just launched, it's something where we wanted it to be more intimate, more getting under the bonnet. And I think with a smaller group, ultimately the bigger group stuff's great, but it can be quite generic, one size fits all. And it's likely that at some point with the stuff that we do, people are going to need that information. One thing I always say quite a lot, especially in this day and age, that look, information is great, and it'd be quite easy is probably the wrong word, but you could simplify things and say, look, if you want to go from A to B, here's a 359-point checklist. However, obviously every business is different resources, different budgets, different goals, different skill sets within the businesses. And a lot of, in terms of what needs to happen next, depends on timing, and getting the timing right. Because I truly believe that the biggest asset that we've got as business owners is time and focus. And ultimately, if one business is going to go from A to B maybe a little bit quicker and easier than another business, it's where not just the founder but the team are putting their time and focus. So a little bit of a long-worded way of answering your question, but with a smaller group where you're doing private one-to-one stuff with them as well, strategic business reviews, and working on more intimate basis, as well as getting them together in a peer environment as well. For me, it's a case of, look, when you're under the bonnet, you've got much better chance of getting that timing right.
Yeah.
You know exactly what's going on, and there's so many variables. So I think, won't mention names, of course, but like we had our first meeting yesterday, and it was just great. These guys had never met each other before, but willing to get very vulnerable after one day.
How important is that, do you think, in terms of, you mentioned getting underneath the hood, not just from a business perspective, but also from a founder perspective? How important is that vulnerability in order for you to be able to do what you need to do?
Yeah, extremely important. Ultimately, like a lot of the stuff that we might do from a training perspective, you can get in a book.
Yeah.
Like, it's information, it's tangible stuff. The biggest thing that as apart from the timing that I've mentioned as well, is kind of like focus, energy of the founders, the team members, and if there's some blockers there, and again, it's all a learning curve for everyone, isn't it? Like I think it's from a coaching and advisory mentor perspective, it would be easy to get quite frustrated and think, well, look, these are the strategies and tactics and stuff that you can implement. Go off and do them. If it was that simple, everyone would be multi-millionaires and everyone would have successful businesses. However, there's typically blockers, and some of that might be mindset stuff. It might be needing more clarity on certain points. It might not be belief in themselves or belief in actually the strategies and tactics that we give them as well. So, as you know, Sam, like we've worked together for years as well. It's not a case of it's all just, unfortunately, not paint by numbers.
Would be nice, although I'm not very good at painting. So,
neither am I.
Who knows? In terms of the impact board, then maybe one for you guys as well. There, we've got a range of businesses, I believe, involved in the impact board. I believe mainly broad to be, but who would be the prime kind of companies or businesses or founders that really are going to get the most amount of benefit from something like the impact board? Would you say?
So it's designed for B2B founders, no particular industry or sector. Because me, Rich, and Chris, we've all got very different backgrounds and experiences, which is something we're really passionate about bringing to the table as a bit of a different offer for people who are looking for some support. But it's specifically for growth-minded founders. So founders that are ready to take that next step, probably got a smallish team, or in that growth journey, and are just wanting a clearer path to the next steps in their business. And that's everything from systems, processes, sales, marketing, right through to, you mentioned about the founder support. It's something we're all really passionate about, that when it's a founder-led business, that's integral to the growth of the business, that they also are taking care of themselves, their energy, their focus, because ultimately that's what's going to keep driving the business forward.
Brilliant. You mentioned there, obviously, you've got various different backgrounds, different expertise. Individually, I guess, where would you say each of you, what do each of you bring? So, Chris, I'm sure a lot of people know your background is mainly from recruitment and scaling and exiting a very successful business. I guess, what are the core elements that you say you bring to the table in the kind of group capacity?
Well, if it was a boy band, I'd be the funny one.
Of course.
Yeah.
Not the looks, though, eh?
He's the handsome one. And he's Gary Barlow.
I'll take that over Robbie, to be fair.
But in all seriousness, what do I bring to the table? Well, lots of recruitment experience. That's a real sweet spot for me. And so that is a target demographic for us as recruitment companies. Because I think as well, sometimes coaches generally could be seen as sort of older, fuddy-duddy, been there, done it, asking the right questions. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to be like, we're still right in the trenches. You know, I was on a desk making money 6 months ago. But I'm bringing in lots of recruitment experience, but generally business as well. I've been part of groups, Scottish International Business Leaders in Scotland for years and years and years. And for the last 8 years, I've been trained in the Shirlaw's methodology, which is a particular skill set, which is like 30, 40 years old. And some of the sort of skills and playbooks that they have been tested on numerous companies. So having been coached that way myself, it made sense for me to now you pay them a monthly fee to use their IP. So that's something else that we plug in generally. So we've got the Shirlaw's knowledge and methodology behind the actual practical experience that we bring to the party. But we've all got really different backgrounds, but mine is very much, you know, solo entrepreneur, scale business, recruitment, and then we've got the Shirlaw's thing behind me as well.
Perfect, yeah. And Tristan, yourself, obviously, again, for people that don't know, qualified breathwork coach and focus a lot more on maybe the founder energy side of things. I presume that's maybe some of the elements that you bring to the table, but similar kind of question, what would be your strong points that you bring to the board?
Yeah, so 15 years in corporate finance, helping big companies raise debt and scale, and then also built and scaled a tech startup. And as you mentioned, something that's a little bit different, qualified and trained in various different nervous system techniques, which might sound a little bit weird for some people, but something that really changed my life on the journey was actually understanding how does my body work in terms of helping control focus, create calm, release stress, sleep deeper, master my own energy, and then again, something that might sound a little bit different to some people, actually, like where are we making most of our decisions from? That comes from the subconscious, from the nervous system. It's making 95% of our decisions, thoughts, and habits. So, starting to access actually what's going on from within us can really help actually identify different patterns and things that could be keeping us stuck. So yeah, that's a little bit about what I do there, and yeah,
that's great. Yeah, thank you. Before these two dive in, and we could get one neural circuit deep on the brain, but I'm sure these guys won't enjoy it too much. So similar kind of thing, Rich. Obviously, we've spoken every day for the last 6 years or something, so I could probably do the intro for you. But what are your skills? What do you bring to the table, sir?
Yeah, I always think it's an interesting question. Obviously, I have this question when you're speaking to new people on a weekly basis as well. And yeah, there's all the expected stuff in terms of like past experience and all that type of stuff. But I typically say to people now, that a lot of people, if they're inquiring about coaching or impact board, it's like, okay, well, if I work with you, I want you to tell me exactly how you went from, I don't know, 0 to 500,000 to 7 figures plus and so on. And my response is, I'm not going to do that, which is like, oh, okay. Because ultimately, do you know what? What worked 5-6 years ago, if we're being super prescriptive, isn't going to work now.
Yeah.
However, there's a lot of top level principles that you learn along the way in terms of they don't change. And sometimes it's applying the top level principles to the more tactical stuff underneath. But I actually believe one of the main benefits now is that I'm working with a very good amount of businesses in similar positions, whether it's businesses that I've invested in or whether it's businesses that pay me to work with them, which we talked about getting under the bonnet earlier. Like, it allows me to be under the bonnet of a lot of businesses at once. And yeah, slightly different businesses, but ultimately they're all B2B service businesses, whether they're recruitment agencies, marketing agencies, tech providers, and so forth. They work in a similar fashion from a strategic perspective. And the main benefit now is that real life data every single day.
Yeah. What's
working, what's not working. And there's experiments being run all the time. So as you know, Sam, it's a case of, well, this has worked for someone else very recently. Maybe we should give it a go.
Yep.
And we see that, but we see it, I want to say undistorted because I'm seeing a word in front of me there saying distorted, but we see it absolutely pure.
Yeah, unfiltered.
So yeah, unfiltered is a great way to put it. Yeah, obviously you see a lot of crap on LinkedIn, and it's normally from a biased perspective because it's someone trying to sell you something. But seeing that real life data every single day and getting that feedback every single day is then a multiplier for everyone else that we work with as well.
Yeah.
So for me, that's actually one of the main benefits rather than past experience.
Well, that knowledge compounds and you're able to share that. And again, you get more back from every other client that compounds and it adds more weight to it. You mentioned they're obviously across a range of different businesses that operate very differently, even though there's some of the same top level principles. Would there be any common mishaps or issues that when you get drafted into these businesses are the things you first look out for that are often, a common challenge that is easy to solve?
Yeah, there's a lot, obviously. And that's not playing anyone down. It's like a lot of the time, it's when we're building a business, it's our first rodeo.
Yeah.
So if it's the first time we've built a business, or it's the first time we've gone from A point to B point, I always say the first time when you're doing anything, you're meant to be shit at it, and you're meant to feel like that sometimes as well. Otherwise, you're not a human being. So yeah, ultimately, there's typically a lot of typical things going on. That the main one is probably the founder or the founders being unclear on their roles, and trying to wear too many hats. I mentioned earlier on in terms of like the biggest dial shift is where we focus our time, and working out exactly where that time should be focused on, and hopefully then building strategies to look after the other bits that shouldn't fall on the founder's table, really. But again, that's absolutely bespoke to everyone because, some people absolutely love certain aspects and not the other aspects. And a lot of the time, it's just making sure people are playing to the strengths and have got that focus to kick forward.
Yeah, perfect. And what Open question, I guess, to all of you. What's the goal? What's the vision? What's the aim, the objective of the impact board? Do we have a clear something we're geared towards, or it might be very different for each company and specific to them? But broadly, what we're working towards? What's the aim of putting the impact board together?
I think for me, it's very much like, this is going to sound cheesy as fuck, to be fair, but like, their success is our success. Like,
Pure cheddar, that mate.
yeah. Ultimately, it's a case of that. The thing that ties them all together is not just the challenges, but what their goals. So there's, for the impact board in particular, there is a criteria, which is, look, the wanting to have a go at building a proper business that is going to have shareholder value, and be exitable. Sometimes the goal isn't to exit and sell, but it's building an asset that would work without them.
Yep.
Essentially. And for me, like Tristan was talking about the founder journey on Wednesday, and for me, that's what it's about. It's like, unless we're in a position where, which I always say that the test is, can we go away for the 6 weeks holidays with the kids and come back with more money and the business hasn't burnt down?
Yep.
If we can, then we've got a business. If we can't, then we've got a job with a lot of fucking stress, a big accounting bill, and paying and worrying about multiple people's mortgages rather than our own. So I think everyone is on that journey to do that, and the vision is to get as many people there as possible, because I think that was like the turning point for me on my journey, in terms of, I just see business as a vehicle to be able to have options and live a good life for those that I love, essentially. And I think the turning point for me was when that did happen.
Yeah.
A little bit thanks to you, mate, and the leadership team we had in place as well. So it's a case of like, get as many people in that situation as possible, because I feel that that is a point where life gets a lot better.
Yeah.
Not just working towards the financial event one day. It's a case of like, even pre that financial event, if that's what people are looking for. For me, that's when, and again, my own goals is very much like security, and always has been, and that's probably been my driver. And that's maybe when that box got ticked for me, whether it's an inner child thing or whatever, like craving security, who knows, but that was my drive. And it's like, oh, now I can do this, I feel like I've got that security. And I think a lot of people I speak to are probably in a similar boat. So if we can get as many people there as possible, then I'm happy, because that's fulfilling.
We'll avoid going down the therapy route for today. We'll maybe save that for another one.
Away,
for you guys, anything different in terms of what you're looking to really get out of it, what you're looking to help people achieve with the impact board?
Cash. Money. Like, I just want to take their money and put it in my bank account. And primarily, that's my goal. No, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. No, help. I definitely help. I've always loved solutions and try to, like, if somebody puts something in front of me, I like trying to find the answer and work it out. And yeah, just learning about their business and getting to know them and stuff like that. But yeah, the collaboration between the guys as well. I mean, even you saw that on Wednesday with them. We're sitting at the table afterwards. We went for a pint, and it was like, oh, so and so already knows so and so, and they're working together. And like, Rich is like at the epicenter of it, and didn't realize that, oh, that's that accountant, and they're working together, and they're doing social media together and stuff. And so, relationships and solutions and helping definitely is my goal.
I was just smiling there as well, because it was like, that's good and it's great to see. But then I've got the accountant saying, go and bloody have a word with him because he's not filed his accounts and submit his information. I'm like,
Yeah,
he's there, go and do it.
totally.
But yeah, no, it's cool to see, really good to see.
Yeah.
I think for me, we were brainstorming ideas for what are we going to call this new service that we're providing together when Chris came on board, and we thought, Northerners, we've got to be Ronseal with this, and so that's where the name came from, Impact Board, because the thing that sits behind this for all of us is impact. We want to have high impact on any business that works with us, because that's where we get real fulfillment from, is seeing people make progress. Because Rich mentioned about like information's everywhere, and you know what we wanted to do is we wanted to take some of the stuff that we'd learned from working with the Unbound community and we thought about, well, how can we have the biggest impact on founders? And we decided the best way to do that was a combination of different things, from one-to-one structured sessions where we look through a plan, But then also, outside of that, people need and want support. So we can almost think we're almost like a on-demand board of advisors, where anytime a roadblock comes along that's going to slow things down, you can drop us a message, get an answer, and keep the momentum going. And then, yeah, a big part of it is, like we've already discussed, is this like peer-to-peer thing, because, you know, none of us are saying that we're the gurus with all the answers. It's like there's real value from that group of everybody contributing. And also the other side of that is it's not just about answers. Sometimes it's just about being seen and heard, and actually realizing, shit, I'm not the only one going through this. Can really help with the sanity, knowing that you're not the only one feeling like there's going to be points where it's going to be difficult, it's going to be stressful, but yeah, for us, it's about impact of just keeping people moving forward and towards their goals, and keeping realigning and making sure that actually the goal is still the goal that they want, and building a business that founders actually love.
Do you think that, Rich, I'm asking this one, do you think people really understand what the service offering is when you deal with a coach? Like, if you went out and asked 100 people on the street who run small businesses, what does a coach do for you?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
I'm just
think
not
so,
sure.
mate, 'cause it's a question I'll ask, like when we get a new inquiry or whatever. Like, a question I always ask people is, what is it you think you need, and logistically, what do you think that looks like? And typically, the answer is I don't know. So I think it's hard to step into the unknown sometimes, isn't it? In terms of like, what does this actually look like, which we could probably explain a little bit. But yeah, I think in answer to your question, Chris, I think it's a difficult one to know what to expect if it's not a process that you've been through before. And I must have worked with 12 to 15 coaches, mentors, consultants, advisors, and non-execs in some form of capacity. And they've all worked differently. So it's not a case of that, oh yeah, well, that's how it works when you're working with someone in that format anyway. So yeah, it's a difficult one, I think, mate.
For you, Chris, what is it for you, and specifically for the Impact Board? What does that look like for what you're delivering, and how does that maybe differ from what maybe a typical coach is seen as?
Yeah. I was talking to somebody about this at the event the other day, and I was like, it's kind of structured but agile. And the guy had a coach before, and he was like, he just kind of just asked me questions and tried to get me to think about it myself. And I was like, you've got to have almost like 3 different hats. One minute you are coaching with them, and then the next minute you're putting your next hat on and you're consulting with them, and then you're trying to mentor. So you've got to be able to move between those different roles, and they are different. And then we've got a structured kind of plan that we like to do. I mean, initial, like stage 1 is like a deep dive, 3-4 hours, fact find, work out what's happening in their business, ask a million questions, which includes their energy, how they sleep, and all this stuff, as well as technical details, turnover, profit and loss, number of staff, where do they want to go, vision, all this stuff. And then we've got strategic business scorecards. But in between that time, with a client that we were working with recently, I think we probably saved them about $8,000 on their factoring, because their factoring charges were off the chart. So they were like, I've got a meeting with the accountant. How does this work? What's the percentages? And so I jumped on a call for an hour while I was driving through to Glasgow. So it's kind of structured, but then also it's rapid response.
Yep.
And sometimes you do need to go, right, what do you think we should do? And then other times we go, right, I don't have time for this. I've done this before. I know the answer to this question. This is what you do. And some people need that and want that. And if it accelerates their development or getting them to the results quicker. I remember being coached before, and it was sometimes annoying because I was like, "Go, just tell me the answer.
Yeah.
I know you've done this. Just give me the answer." But I get it, but I don't want to take 2 hours to have the idea coached out from inside me, especially if it's something just kind of practical. Yeah, just do that.
Yeah.
So it's fine lines between what actually involved, but structured and agile. There when you need them, but not preachy either. But I think just in your corner. Do you know what I mean? In your corner.
It definitely needs that mix, doesn't it? And I think that's where working intimately with people works. And it's a bit, if we compared it to football terms, like why was Fergie so good? It's because he tracked Cantona are different to Giggsy. And I see a lot of that with the different people that I work with. People need different stuff and also need different stuff at different times. Sometimes they need mentoring. Sometimes they need an arm around the shoulder. Sometimes they need coaching. Sometimes they just need telling to shut the fuck up and crack on.
Yep.
An example recently was was a chap who, again, doing it incredibly well, but trying to do too much himself and sees a lot of things as costs rather than investments, which some of that needs a little bit of coaching around. We'd made the decision that he needed to hire an SDR to help with the top of the funnel. Decided on it, started the progress, and then I get a WhatsApp at silly o'clock at night saying, I'm sat thinking about this, Rich, and I'm worried about X, Y, and Z. And again, it's that subconscious coming in, like, I'm scared of doing this because I've never done it before, and all that type of stuff. And yeah, sometimes for one person that might have been, let's jump on a call tomorrow, let's talk it through and all that type of stuff. Whereas that person, it was quite a blunt message back saying, get on with it. You're scared. Let's see where we go with it. We've already done the due diligence. And it was like, yeah, I know, Rich. Yeah, you're completely right. And then he made that decision and moved forward. So I think it's really important that even as a free, we're spending quite a lot of one-to-ones with these people as well. So I'll be spending time with them privately away from these guys. So you're getting your own feel for them as well. And for me, that's really important. And I think the more you do that with people, the more you know which button to press at the right time. So I think it's super important. But naturally, when people sign up for something, they need something tangible in front of them as well. So we need to say, well, this is how it's going to work and all the rest of it. But actually, most of the gold is in the unplanned and unscheduled stuff. But in terms of like scheduled stuff, like private one-to-ones every single month, like strategic business reviews on, well, when you start, but on a quarterly basis to track progress as well. Accountability. And I think when accountability works well on an intimate environment, it isn't, okay, Sam, you said you were going to do this and you haven't done it, so I'm going to bollock you. It's, okay, Sam, you said you were going to do this. Let's explore what has potentially got in the way of this not happening this month. Because again, that's going to be bespoke as well. So there's
You're forgetting about our retreat.
And a bit of fun stuff as well. But again, it's that getting together, isn't it? I think like we did Mallorca last year and got a good group together, and it's like everyone, the feedback was, I just feel amazing because I feel normal and less like an alien, and it happens every single day. So if I typically speak to 2 or 3 business owners a day that don't pay me. So they're inquiring, a bit of networking or whatever, and typically each one of those business owners will say, I've got this challenge, X challenge, Y challenge. And I feel that they always feel like they're in a very unique situation. It might be that the husband or wife aren't in business and they've got staff who don't understand running a business. Maybe some of the social circle, they're in paid employment and all that type of stuff. So people are sat there feeling that it's just me and I feel very unique and I feel on my own and I feel like an absolute fucking alien and I can't carry on doing it this way. Whereas typically what I say is, last person I spoke to half an hour said exactly the same fucking thing. But it's hard, isn't it? So when you're in that environment, whether it's retreats or whatever, it's a case of, it can take a lot of that pressure off for me. It's a case of, okay, well, I'm feeling this. And if it's normal, that's okay. I'll keep moving forward there.
We're trying to quantify what it was, and we were chatting about it the other day, and I was like, what is it? And I was like, we're basically trying to be like, we can be the paracetamol for your business and for your business headaches. But that's what I thought we were trying to do. But it's maybe oversimplified. But people need to wait a long time before they go to the doctor or whatever. But we can solve the problems, or at least we know somebody that can, right?
Yeah, certainly you can recognise the symptoms as to why someone would need to go and maybe seek your medication, shall we say?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I guess in terms of how it works tangibly, you mentioned about the face-to-face and lots of one-to-one. How frequently, generally, do you guys speak to the people that you're working with? How much of it is one-to-one? How does it plan to grow? Or is that, again, bespoke to each of the clients? What can people potentially expect in terms of how much raw FaceTime they get with you guys?
Yeah, well, we have some of the structured stuff. So we have a quarterly get-together where there's the peer-to-peer stuff as well. We have a monthly catch-up to make sure things are progressing, that we're moving forward with a plan. And then the rest of it in between is just pretty unstructured. So we're together in a WhatsApp group, so we're there as much as the founder needs. You know, we're not there pestering them or, but we're there in the corner. And that's been one of the key things that we've seen already. You know, it's a really new service. We only launched it in January, but just you mentioned it there about this word loneliness. Like, I had 2 co-founders in my first business, plus a coach, plus a mentor, and there were still moments where I felt lonely. And for all the business owners that I work with, that word just comes up time and time again, where you're always just putting your best foot forward, which is natural. You know, with your clients, you know, you want to confidence in your business, with your team, but beneath that, there's moments for every business owner where you feel like, actually, this is tough, and I'm not sure what the next step is. And just having someone where it's even just a, here's what I'm thinking, what do you guys think? Just a sounding board, like, can just keep the momentum going, where you're actually thinking, confidence in the decisions.
Yeah, that's all it comes down to, isn't it? All building a business is making decisions. Some of those decisions are big macro decisions. Other ones you might see as small micro decisions, but it's often the small micro ones that hold us back and slow things down. And it's about momentum, isn't it? Like, you lose a little bit of momentum, it's a downward spiral.
Yeah.
The momentum's going in the right direction, you kick on. And I think, like, in answer to your question there as well, like, how often do these people speak? Like, most of the guys are WhatsApping most days.
Yep.
When you get challenges thrown in the group, look, Chris might be busy, Tristan might be busy, I'll get on it, give him a call, or vice versa. Or there might be someone who's a better fit between the 3 of us that it's more relevant for. It's literally they've got us in the pocket. You can see that from burning a shadow in Tristan's jeans there.
I'm also the trendy one here.
I don't know about that.
Come on, Sam. Have you got a band the bomb sign and the palm tree on your trousers? I don't think so.
I think he's done you there.
We've mentioned a few times the words coach and consultant and mentor, and obviously there's subtle differences and nuances between each of those different words and how you apply that. How would you describe to maybe somebody that has heard all 3 words and doesn't really know what the difference is? How would you go about describing what the difference between those is and what the benefits of each of those different approaches bring?
Well, for me, it's subtle differences. I'm quite a knowing kind of interactive person. Like, if I know something, I want to let somebody know that. So actually, sometimes I'm actually quite insecure about maybe my coaching ability, because I'm quite new to it, although I've coached loads of people in my job, but they were on my payroll.
Yeah.
So they kind of had to do and take on board what I was saying. But it's different when I'm working for somebody else. And so actually, I think personally, I need to work better at my coaching, to listen and try to coach the information out of the people that I'm working with. So that's something I'm personally trying to develop. I know these guys have got much more experience and qualified in it. So I think there's definitely a strength there. But for me, when I know something, I feel like I go straight to consultant. I can be like, right, I'm going to tell you how to do that. Or I'm like, let's go in the trenches together. And I'm like, just energy to like go, or I'll go away and read about it or learn it and stuff. Like, saw something on Instagram the other day there that I thought was relevant for one of the clients we were working with. Pinged it over, podcasting I was listening to. I said, listen to this, but go to like 1 hour 20 and listen to 50 minutes. Listen to see how this guy talk about, I think he was taking references or something. And so that's what I'm trying to be. I'm like consulting and helping and sort of in there with them. Coaching's the nuances more, maybe you're kind of working with them to pull that information out from them. But certainly that's my understanding of the role. But you guys are more experienced than me, so
Yeah,
Agree with that, guys.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say coach for me simply is just helping the person figure out the right answer for them. Mentor is a bit more I'm just going to extract my knowledge and give it to you and give you what I think is the best answer. And then consultant is a bit more, we're going to work together on implementing a project, and we're going to come up with a plan of how we're going to go from A to B on a certain thing, whether it's implementing systems, processes, changing the team, growth.
Yeah, I agree.
That's how I'd describe it.
I think in terms of breaking it down, like that mentor role for me, you've got the coach, you've got the strategic consultant, and then you've got that mentor role as well. And when it comes to mentoring, I think that's the one where it's a bit like, I think people like to sit there above and play that guru role that I know everything, which is a load of bollocks. Like, all it is estimated guesses. That's all it is. And this might downplay our roles a little bit. However, it's a case of, from a mentorship perspective, you want to be working with someone. It's all one big experiment. But if you're working with someone who's ran more experiments than you
Yeah.
and ran the specific experiments in the past, the likelihood is that that estimated guess is going to be closer than doing it on your own.
Yep.
And ultimately, for me, that's where we can fast track things. So if there's 50 decisions over a period of time, we might not get 50 right. But because we've run the experiments in the past, we get 40 right. And on their own, they might have got 10 right, and they're up and down and back to the drawing board. Then it's just getting places faster and easier. And I use mentors in all aspects of my life, and have done for a long time. And for me, it's just a case of, okay, I understand your situation. And from the data that you've given me and the information you've given me, all I can say is, this is what I would do in your situation right now.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to take that information or not. And I think from a mentor perspective, that's what my good mentors look like anyway. It's a case of they understand me, they get me from both a commercial, personal perspective. And the longer you work with someone and the more vulnerable and information you give them, the better that answer of, in your situation, Rich, this is what I would do, is going to be essentially. So I think it's really important, and it's ultimately, I probably played it down a little bit, but for me, it's a fucking cheat code in all areas of life. So coaches in business, in property, in finance, in mindfulness, like it's a case of, well, yeah, this guy's a lot more mindful than me. He's a monk. He's present. Maybe I've got something to learn from that.
Don't be pointing at Chris when you say that.
Yeah. You've not got your gear on today.
You mentioned there about vulnerability. It's been mentioned twice already. Chris, you mentioned around insecurity. It's probably something that within the, again, particularly on social media and what you hear on podcasts, the B2B world and the gurus and the sales and all the rest of it, it's probably something that's not talked about enough. But for me, it's probably one of the biggest areas that you can make improvements on, aside from the sales and the marketing, the finance and all the rest of it. How important is getting those true insecurities and vulnerabilities out of people, and how much of that, I guess, plays a part in the coaching that you do and the mentoring you do with the various clients that you have on board?
You want to get that?
Yeah, I'd say a big part, yeah, because the only way we can help a business move forward is if we understand what's going on, not only in the business, but what's going on for the founder. And there's no getting away from it. If you're going to build a exciting, big business, and there's going to be some tough, stressful moments. And, you know, the thing for me about this is, it's like Rich mentioned, that the business is a vehicle for building a great life for the founder. And it's not the be all and end all, but it's the thing that's going to facilitate a lot of the great things in life.
Yep.
Great relationships, having fun, great holidays, house, whatever's important to the founder. And along that journey, when you're working hard in the business, there's often very stressful moments. There's often moments where some of those other dials we start to let slip, which is natural. And that's where, if we understand intimately what's going on for a founder, sleep starts to become a challenge, mindset starts to come into play, fear starts to come in. This is where we can really step in and offer, you know, really personal support for a founder to just keep that momentum going, not just for the business, but for them in their personal life as well. You know, if they're sleeping well, if they're eating well, good relationships, all of that stuff fills the cup up for the founder to then accelerate the business forward as well. These two things are just so intrinsically linked.
Yeah. Anything you guys would add to that at all?
I think you've got to give as well. Like
Yeah.
And have empathy, I think, these days as well. But you've also just got to be genuine. I think nowadays, generally, everybody can smell it if you just talk shit all the time and you're not being authentic, you know. And so if you're saying, "Oh yeah, everything's amazing in our lives and everything's great," sometimes it's not. Been in some dark places and that, and we're not listing them and stuff like that. But it's how you get through that, and it's the people that are around you and the support network that you have. So I think it's got to be a two-way street.
Yep.
It's got to be a two-way
As in
street.
you sharing some of your pains as well, in order to
and be like,
extract
I've been
that.
there, or even just showing vulnerability. Like, you know, I don't know the answer to that question. But let me see if I know somebody that does. Let me think if I can speak to somebody. And I'll speak to the lads and go, "You guys ever come across this?" And they'll be like, "Oh, I don't think so." But then Tristan will go, "I know somebody who did though. Let me phone my mate. He's working in this company. Let me see if I can get a copy of that document that he used or whatever." So
That's a benefit of having all three of you
with all
together as
three of
one.
us. Yeah, 3 heads are better than one, and you've got 3 times the bunch of network. But there's definitely a being honest, wearing your heart on your sleeve, being authentic, and giving a little bit of you to the clients as well. And it's not just about the direct debit and helping them. Genuinely, I want to see them be successful. So I think, yeah, that's definitely for me, giving a lot to get that back again and creating a safe space for them to be vulnerable and talk to you about things that maybe other than work as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. The friendships that can be made as well through clients.
And it's
Sorry,
part
go
of why we're pretty selective over who we let into the impact board,
Yep.
because that's super important for us, because creating that, usually it sounds a bit fluffy, but that safe space where you can show up and be vulnerable is really important. You know, if we've got founders coming in that are just wanting to swing their dicks and show off about how great they are, you know, that's not going to create the best environment for actually, like, let's be real about what's going on. And one of the things I love about working with these two is they're just like super honest, you know, both very successful, but are not there showing off about it. It's like real talk around what is this really like. And I think that helps facilitate the space. You know, we had the meeting yesterday where first time founders meeting each other, and like there was some pretty vulnerable stuff shared. Almost could have done with a bit of a therapy couch, I think, at certain points.
Yeah.
But that's the stuff that, you know, keeps
where you get
things
the good
moving
stuff in.
forward. Yeah.
I think the big word like there is trust, isn't it? Like, I know it sounds like a cheesy value that you chuck on a wall somewhere, but ultimately they've got to trust you, and to get results, kind of like you've got to trust them a little bit as well. Like I've got experience of coaching people where the relationship's just not right, and you've got to exit it.
Yeah.
So I've been in a situation where they sometimes people might sign up and they might put you on a bit of a pedestal a little bit because they've signed up with you, because it's like, oh yeah, well, I can see their experience and I want that. And then if you're coaching them, it's a bit like the ego gets in the way. It's like, I want to impress Rich and I want to like make out that everything's good all the time, which is great when it is. Like, we want to celebrate wins, but ultimately, if it's not good, you've got to tell us. And you've got to be honest about it. And 99 times out of 100 people do, because hopefully we create that environment. But certainly had it on a couple of occasions where that's not been the case, and it's okay, well, we can't work together if that's the case, because you're not making real progress, because you're working on problems that maybe aren't there, and also missing problems that are there. But I think, yeah, the trust thing's a big thing. And I think, yesterday is a real life example. We've got a founder of a multi-million-pound business in the room, I think 30 odd staff, very successful. They'd put on an event themselves the day before with hundreds of people there. And it's a case of that they were willing to be vulnerable. This is the first time we've done Zooms and phone calls and the rest of it, but first time we've all been sat down together, and they're willing. Everyone was bringing different challenges to the table, and theirs was a very personal, vulnerable one. And yeah, look, I'm not trying to paint a picture that it's all super deep all the time, because there was some bloody good laughs had at most moments during the day as well. But at this point, I don't think we were far off tears.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately that's the proper work, isn't it? If he's now going back in a better place, then yeah, there's massive success, multi-millions, 30 staff and all that right stuff on the surface level. But if he's going back in a place where he's happier and enjoying it and progressing better and the rest of it, then that's even a bigger win,
isn't it?
It's an even bigger win. What's the point in making multi-millions if you're not happy?
Yeah.
And sometimes it just like they need someone also to tell them that you're doing a bloody good job here, mate. like
bit of a pat on the back.
We all need to be seen and heard, don't we? But sometimes you need to be seen and heard by people who maybe get it and understand and have walked a mile in your shoes. Because it's all right, your Auntie Jill saying, I'm really proud of you, sunshine. But sometimes that doesn't cut it, does it? So, yeah, it's just interesting to say out loud as well, particularly with that experience yesterday and kind of like recent events as well. But I think trust is a big thing, and I think that's where we're going to have to be super careful as well, because I'm pretty sure we'll have members that aren't the right fit, and that's down to us to make sure that we handle that in the right way, because that could impact the whole group and ruin the dynamic and stuff like that. So it's going to be challenging,
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm sure Chris will bring his qualification process from Peace Recruitment down with him, and we'll weed out any of those people. We've mentioned a few times around the journey and not just going for that financial kind of goal or that end point. I know you guys talk about the founder's journey quite a lot on those 4 stages. For anyone that's maybe not heard that before or come across that, can you just talk us through what those 4 stages are, and I guess some of the core challenges and checkpoints that you look to reach along that journey? I think it's really important people understand that and maybe understand where they are at now and how to get to that next stage.
I'm happy to fire away. I'm like, Tristan, you did this the other day. You've got it. It's all in your head. But no, I think we're all familiar with it, and it can be explained in different ways. But
maybe take a stage each, then, and we'll round.
And there's different challenges at each stage as well. And I think it's important to understand where you're at again, because it's like, I'm at that stage. And it's normal, but there's like the end of the tunnel. So, like, stage 1 is ultimately self-employed, independent. You wear all the hats. You've got to make a lot. You start off, and it's fairly easy at the start because you're just so energized that you're doing something new. So it starts off really well. You've got that motivation. You've got that energy. You break down a lot of doors. You've maybe got an initial network that you lead on and bring some clients across from your previous life and all that type of stuff. So it's all hunky dory in the early days, but you're self-employed, and ultimately it'd be the equivalent of, if we put it in simple terms, if you're an electrician, you're a self-employed electrician. And that's the same for if you're a recruiter or marketer. You're self-employed, you wear all the hats. Where that level starts getting tricky is that that early energy runs out. You start facing more challenges. You've got to level up as a business person, not just someone who is good at doing the job, essentially. All of a sudden, you've got issues with payment, finance, tax bills, all that type of stuff. And then it starts weighing a little bit more heavy. And there's the way I see it and the way I explain most things, and I love the analogy of the old video games. So it depends on your age, but I'm thinking Mega Drive, Streets of Rage. Like,
it's too old for me, that one.
There you go. But you're on it. What happens, like, when you play a video game, level 1 starts off all right. It's pretty easy. You coast through it a little bit, and then ultimately you get to the end of the level. What happens?
Big boss.
You get a boss at the end. He kicks the shit out of you. You've got to go back to the start again, and that happens time and time again. But ultimately, once you get past those bosses at the end, then it's time for the next level, and things get a little bit easier again. But the same thing keeps happening, and there's like loads of these levels, macro, micro again. But yeah, that first level is very much self-employed founder, where you've got to then upskilling as a business owner and start leveraging your own time and money and resources. So we're scrappy in the early doors, get some fees on the board, particularly if we're organic. And then we've got to start thinking, well, now I've got more resources, mainly in the format of revenue. And it's a case of now I can leverage the revenue to leverage my own time, and doing that smart to get to the next level, essentially. So ultimately what we call level 2 is the general manager founder. So ultimately you've got a little team, whether that's outsourced people, suppliers, agencies, full-time staff, whatever it is. But ultimately, if you're working for someone else, you'd be the general manager. You're still wearing a lot of hats. And typically what happens there is people hire for tasks and not responsibility. And we're discussing this a little bit yesterday. So all of a sudden these tasks are getting done, but you haven't hired, you've outsourced the task, but you haven't outsourced the thinking. So ultimately you're still doing all the thinking. And again, that's a boss at that level, because what happens is you've got this team, you're more productive, but instead of doing thinking for one person, you're doing thinking for however many people it is, depending on the business and the goals and stuff like that. So that's typically the next challenge. And again, it can be very, very painful, because it's like, well, on paper, we're doing all right. We've got this revenue coming in. We've got staff. I've done what Tristan and Chris told me at the last stage. I need to outsource these tasks and get them off my plate so I can do more high value and more energy stuff. And I thought I was doing the right thing. It's like, you are doing the right thing, but it's just another level. And then it starts thinking, okay, I'm the general manager, but if I'm not there leading from the front every day, if I go on holiday, like, I'm still picking up the phone on holiday. Like, I don't get 2 minutes peace. I've got staff problems to deal with. I've got client problems to deal with. And ultimately, if I do go away, then sometimes I'm coming back and there's a few things set on fire that I need to put right when I get back to work as well. And And that's the stage that I see. I think both stages can get people stuck a lot. And if you get stuck in the painful bits of those stages, then it's hard to progress to the next level, essentially. So stage 2, we would call the general manager founder. And stage 3, then for me, in terms of the next level, is you started outsourcing the thinking, not just the doing. So then you've got the right support, again, whether it's agencies, people, outsource staff, in-source staff, whatever it is. But you're at a level where, and sometimes this comes with time and experience as well, because some of these people need to have been doing the reps on the tasks for a while so they can understand to take strategic responsibility and the thinking as well. And again, it's quite interesting to say it to you, Sam, because that's what you did in one of my previous businesses. You started, you did the tasks, and eventually Sam knows these tasks. Do you know what, mate? You can take ownership for the fucking thinking as well, please. And that's where things get good, because then all of a sudden is you've got a team that are doing the thinking as well, which means all of a sudden I've got this business that's running smoothly in my absence, because I don't need to be there all the time doing the strategic thinking, because I've got people within the business that are responsible for that. And when problems do come, there's less firefighting, there's less reactive stuff, because you can trust those people within the business to do that. And so that'd be stage 3, where I actually say, now you're owning a business and not a job.
Yep.
Because if you've got that set up within the business, you're now a business owner. Because we're at that stage, which I mentioned earlier on, that ultimately, I remember this point in time, to be fair, like I went across, my old man lives in Thailand, went across there for 3 or 4 weeks. The business was running in the background. Naturally, didn't, in terms of like firefighting calls for the business, didn't take them, caught up with people just because it's hard not to, but completely switched off. And I remember getting to the end of the 3 weeks thinking, I have spent a fortune here. I have also not really thought about the business. And I thought, shit, I'm going to have to go back. I'm going to have to get my head down, firefight, get money back on track. And ultimately was worried about coming back, because that's the habit that you're in. That's what you've had to do before. And all of a sudden, come back from holiday, I'm like, got more money in the bank than I left with. And where's all the problems? Everything's cool and running smoothly. And it's like, holy shit, this is good. And that's the point where I think it's like that's where we can say we've got a business. It's an asset that runs without you consistently there. And you know what? There's a challenge there as well. Because as a business owner, like, you're addicted to solving problems, and like, you're used to it. So it's like, well, I get that, but I feel a bit uncomfortable that now I feel a bit worthless.
What do I do?
Yeah, what do I do? And I think, I remember, like, we used to have a laugh about it as well, that, I'm shit at golf, so I can't spend my time doing that. I'm sat in the office, and we spoke about this yesterday as well. Like, at that level, it's like, I was sometimes chained to the office as well, because I thought, well, you've set the precedent, you've led from the front, first in, last out, to get it to that stage. But actually, as a business owner, you don't need to do that anymore. And I used to think, I can't leave the office because what's Sam going to think and what's Al's going to think, because you kind of set that precedent. But actually, that's what your staff want you to do at that stage. It's like, you're giving us this responsibility, bloody give me it.
Yeah.
Like, so there's like a lot of like mental challenges and stuff like that. So that's a great stage to be in. And ultimately, once we start getting to that stage, the business is valuable, because it means if you step away from it, it still runs. So even if you're looking to exit, sell, it's a valuable asset to someone else, essentially. And then stage 4, I'm sure these guys will chip in with some other stuff here, but just to keep it fluid, like stage 4 is when, ultimately, even stage 3, you've got some surplus profits. You can start making some investments, whether it's property, whether it's other startup business, stocks, mutual funds, whatever floats your boat. And you can start leveraging your money then. So you're not just leveraging your time, because that's set up, you start leveraging your money. So, stage 4, then potentially, if there is a financial event, there's an exit, or you're just using the surplus profits, it's that freedom as a business owner. So it's a case of, okay, it's the entrepreneur stage, because now I've got money working for me in various pockets, whether it is what I've said, like property or startup businesses, joint ventures, projects, and all that type of stuff. But ultimately, with most of those projects, you're not spearheading them. Sometimes you prefer providing strategic advice from above, but you're not spearheading them. So you're leveraging both your time and your money, which again is a great situation to be in. And then for me, again, a great stage to strive for, because typically you don't necessarily have to work, but you do because you're an entrepreneur, and you like work, but you're working on stuff that you bloody love all the time, like passion projects and all that type of stuff, which I'd say, to be fair, like Unbound Impact Board is exactly that. It's a passion project. It's not a charity, but it's certainly a passion project, and it's allowed us to make decisions less from a revenue perspective. We had 50 members last year paying a monthly fee. We stopped doing it because we wanted to think, okay, well, we can make that bit free and make more impact, rather than just making decisions just from a commercial perspective all the time. So, summarize: stage 1, self-employed founder, and there's a lot more challenges than I've mentioned here, and a lot more bosses. Stage 2, general manager founder. Stage 3, business owner. It's working for you. It's an asset. And then stage 4, that entrepreneurial role where, you're very leveraged on terms of your time and money. So I've banged on there a little bit, but hopefully I've kind of summarized some of the key bits and the key challenges at each stage is.
Yeah, I think that was really, really good answer there. And I think, Chris, particularly you hit one of these stages at Peace, and you had talk about share laws and that first blocker that people have to hit. Where does that tie into? Can you explain a bit about that? And then also, where does that typically tie into that founder journey? And yeah, I think that's a really good bit of advice to talk about. If you could explain a bit about that.
I think then you need to recognise that everybody's in a different place in their life, and that's like in terms of the stages that Rich just mentioned, or where they are financially, or where they are in the headspace to even take on a coach or to really, have the impact board work for you. For me, I felt after about 8 years that my knowledge started to stagnate a little bit. I had a team of about 15, 16, I think it was at the time, and we were doing great and money was good and stuff like that. But I thought if my knowledge starts to stagnate or plateau and I don't keep pushing myself forward, what's going to happen to the business? And so,
sorry, because were you in the business owner stage or general manager kind of stage there, would you say? Were you still hands dirty wearing lots of hats, or were you freely able to step away then?
I was probably right in the middle between 2 and 3, if I'm honest with you. But I was probably not in 3 because I was addicted to basically being wanted in the business.
You were stopping yourself from going to 3.
Yeah, because I was a bit of a control freak, and also I felt like it defined me. And being also, it was because it was weird after like 6 years or something. I always thought being top of the sales league and confirming most interviews, and always writing my name up and put the name up and put the money up on the board when you've made some cash. I thought that kind of defined me. But I needed to learn to reframe that in my mind. And so I coined a phrase that it was my job actually to move my role over a little bit. So my job was just to make it rain and train at the end of the day. That was my thing, trademarked. So making it rain for the team in terms of bringing them in business and then training them to deliver better for their clients and make it easy to do their job. But yeah, I was probably between stage 2 and 3. And then I realized, I thought, right. And also, there was the loneliness that we mentioned earlier. Also, I had a team, and my frustrations through drive and determination were being pushed onto my team, which was very inspiring. So I actually found myself being a bit of a dick, not intentionally. And I think my team knew it was coming from a good place. So I had to reframe that, and having a coach at that point, somebody that I could rely on, gave me somewhere to push up my stresses and push up my pressures. And, that was really good, because then it meant that I could vent how I was feeling and the frustrations, and she would either say, yeah, no, it's crap, right? And then this is what we could do about it. Or, you're right to feel this way. Maybe you should pick up the team on that or whatever. But how are you going to frame it so you don't feel that they're, you're going to demotivate them and stuff? And so, yeah, for me, it was revolutionary. But I was probably between stages 2 and 3. And it was because I couldn't let go of the control I needed at stage 2 in order to have the business run without me, because I felt like it defined me. So I had to reframe that, and then quite quickly move through the gears.
That's why I love this simple model, because it seems so complex building a business, and if you can really simplify stuff, you can kind of start to see the path and the route out. Because I think there's stuff that gets you successful in stage 1, it isn't going to get you to be successful. It's different
100%.
things that are going to help you get to stage 2 and be successful there, and likewise to stage 3 and stage 4. And there's a combination of like the resources in the business that's going to allow you to push on to that next level, skills, experience. But I think like for me, mindset's a big one where you're like, talking about like control there. It's tough, isn't it? Where you've got to stage 2, you've got a business that's working well, and like this has got me here. Like me being all over this stuff is like, this is why this business is now successful. But
it's interesting, isn't it? Because I really resonated when you said that, Chris. It's like you've got to unlearn who you are. You've got to like shed some skin. Because like from a tangible side of things, you were actually in stage 3 there, but your mind was still in stage 2. And then there's that process to go through to kind of like shed that skin. And yeah, like I said to you, Sam, like I completely get that, where it's like you just holding on to old habits that are actually holding you back. And I think, I work with coaches and mentors at that time, and sometimes they just help you see through the bullshit that you tell in your own head.
Just stay in the comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
And what you know and what you've done for ages and stuff like that. So you set up, but you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable and putting yourself out there to try and learn these new things.
And we all think we're like entrepreneurial and type A characters, and do you know what I mean? Like fearless, because that's who we are, and that's why we started businesses. But it's a load of bollocks. Like I've asked to set up business owners before, and I've probably been the person in the seat where it's like, oh, what are your limiting beliefs? It's like, yeah, we don't have limiting beliefs, man, because we're go-getters. And it's like, there's just different limiting beliefs at every single time. It's just, so many.
Buried a bit deeper sometimes.
I think there's a recognition that what we're trying to say here, what we're talking about is everybody's on a different place, everybody's on a different journey and stuff like that, and everybody needs different things, and nobody wants out the box, off the shelf, one size fits all. And coaching and mentoring and consulting and running a business, doesn't matter whether it's an ice cream van or whether it's a multi-billion-dollar consultancy, they all have different challenges, but there's also similarities no matter where they're at. So when we spoke about the original Unbound sort of offer, and when you had much bigger clients paying a monthly fee, we're like, what do we want to do? We wanted to help, we wanted to support, and we wanted to be closer with them. So there's like a free offering which they can log on to our portal, and they got access to hours and hours and hours of free stuff, downloadable workbooks and all that stuff. And so people don't have the budget, but they want to DIY and learn it themselves, they can get that from us. Right, somebody wants to go all in and fire on and really exit and scale this business and kick on. We've got very intensive with retreats and monthly webinars and like one-to-one coaching, rapid response, quarterly meetups, peer-to-peer network. We've got that, which is a wee bit more expensive, but it's like not for the faint-hearted. But then there's also, we all do our own individual stuff. We've all got our own individual clients who maybe don't want that level of intensity or group peer-to-peer because it's not their cup of tea. They don't want to do it themselves through the portal. So somebody will see Rich 3 times a year. Somebody will book in and see Tristan and work solely with him for 3 months on the bounce, and then not see him for 3 months, and then see him again once they're implemented the projects. And then there's other options where we've actually had clients that are at startup, but have got something, and actually what they need is cash. So actually we're in a lucky situation that we're able to actually invest in businesses, and then actually we can take an equity deal with them where we can get paid on their future success of the business. So we're trying to give people a menu that, depending where they are on their journey and what their appetite is for the different level of coaching. So we think we've got that pretty nailed, and we've only launched 6-8 weeks ago. So, and it's the starting off, it's going well, but it's not a one size fits all depending where you are on the jersey, but we've got an option for all of them, I think.
And would you say that Impact Board is for a particular stage on that journey, or would anybody get that benefit from it? It sounds like it's maybe more towards the later stages, or someone that's just started out, would they get that benefit as well?
I think it's just commitment to going through the stages more than anything else. Like there's people early, I'd say out of the handful of clients we were working with yesterday, they're probably all slightly at different parts of the stages, to be fair, and some are earlier doors, but ultimately it's that commitment to the stages. They've accepted that they certainly don't want to be a self-employed founder anymore, and be self-employed. Typically they've started that journey of leveraging their own time and resources, they might have a couple of members of staff or whatever. Other people have got 30 members of staff, but ultimately it's a commitment to those stages. And it's mad, really, because you can be multi-million-pound turnover with 30 staff, but actually, and on paper, that seems a lot further ahead on the journey compared to maybe 500k revenue with 3 members of staff. But actually, if you strip it back, sometimes they're actually just both at the same point. the paper looks different. But in terms of where they're at on that journey is can be quite
I think
similar
there's
as
a, I
well.
think there's a
Similar,
sweet spot, though, eh? Probably somewhere between 3 or 4 staff up to sort of 20 staff. Because I think at that point, sometimes businesses, it's like growing up. Originally, you get away with sort of shitting your pants and you can't even speak and you're just on your own. And then you get into sort of toddlers and it's like you're expected to act differently. So I think that's something, the life of a business almost works as you growing up as a child. Eventually, you get to your sort of, late teens or whatever, you're like, you need expected to act a little bit better and do things properly. And I think at that point, that's the pain point. It's almost like business puberty. Like, right, I need a hand here.
Trademark that one.
Yeah. And so it's like at that point. So I think for me, it's the sweet spot where you've grown up a wee bit and you've got expectations, 4 or 5 staff to 20. And because you do need to input policies, procedures, standard operating stuff, you do need to think about macro sort of marketing plans and top of funnel lead generation because you've got a lot of mouths to feed at that point. So if you're not systemized that, or you don't know how to systemize it, or the technology that's out there in order for you to accelerate your growth or become more efficient, that's when the pain points is. That's sort of, for me, to put a number on it, is somewhere between 5 and 20 staff for companies, because that's when you notice those growing pains start to kick in, and then they'd start needing. That's where it was for me, and I think I've seen that numerous times. And the people that are kind of calling us seem to be in that sort of bracket.
Yeah,
They're also then at that point they've got the affordability and the time and the desire, because they're like, right, I've got a chance at this.
Yeah, like they've just beaten a boss and now they're ready to go and really go at the next one.
Yeah,
what a great clip for you there when you clip this up. Just like give zero context whatsoever. So what do you guys do? It's like we help people get through puberty. just leave it there. But it's a great analogy, mate, and I love an analogy.
it's
as
good, I
well.
like it.
Really support people through that stage. So yeah, we'll be good.
Perfect. Well, I can see over there we've been going for just over an hour. My stomach's starting to make some rumbling noises over here. So shall we wrap that up and have a little bit of a break, chaps?
Sounds good.
Good stuff.
Cheers, Sam.
Top man. Well done.